What's happening, YouTube? Back in the day, Gamer here. Thanks for tuning into my channel for this year's NES Halloween Games episode. This is one of my, if not my favorite video to make, because I love the Nintendo, I love Halloween, and I love pairing games with the holiday. So that being said, let's get into this stack of games. Before we dive into these, we better crack open a pumpkin beer. I didn't get to try that many this year, yet. But this one seems to generally be my favorite. It's kind of generic, but it's the Sam Adams Jack O Pumpkin Ale. We can't drink it out of the bottle. We gotta drink it out of our jack-o'-lantern cup. That's right. Only get to use this sucker a couple times a year. I'm not gonna miss the opportunity to do so. So YouTube, happy Halloween. Cheers. Yeah. All right. So to get started, premise. I do this video every year. Love doing it. There's almost 700 games in the Nintendo library, not including unlicensed and homebrews. So we're talking over 700 to choose from. So every year the list gets different. Sometimes we've got repeats because they're really good games, or I didn't beat them the year before and they made it on the list again. But that being said, this year, usually I do like top 10. This year, I'm just the ones I've been playing. I didn't make up a number. I just chose the ones that I chose to play for this season. There's only 6. That doesn't mean it's bad. Sometimes when I do these, I do them alphabetically or not in any particular order. I am doing them in a particular order this year, and we're going from bottom to top. So we're starting off at number 6. A controversial game, to say the least. It's got that rainbow on there, and it's not what you think. You don't see this one on people's Halloween lists, no sir, but you're going to see it on mine right here, and it is none other than Beetlejuice. So, is this game terrible? At first, yes. But, as I say very often, when you give it a chance and you get the hang of it, it gets much less terrible. I've always despised this game because I didn't give it a chance. Now that I'm getting close to the complete NES set, as of filming of this video, I've got 601 licensed Nintendo games. I have to savor every little bit of every little title, because soon it'll be over. After giving it some play instead of rage shelving it, as I've done for years in the past, it definitely grew on me. That being said, the reason it made this year's Halloween video is because the movie is extremely theme appropriate, and as far as I've seen so far, it has a lot of similar qualities with the movie. The intro screen with his headshot is also very cool. I'm a sucker for intro screens. Also, the little cutscenes where Beetlejuice talks to you and or gives you little hints are amusing as well. The outdoors area in this game, as of so far, are not very spooky, but the indoors do fit nicely. The dark comedy element is there, just like in the movie, and the death animation when he turns into a skeleton and explodes is a nice touch. It's showtime! It's also good that it has a password system, which is not too complicated, as tends to happen on old Nintendo games. So that's always good, because this game's pretty brutally difficult, especially until you start getting the hang of it. There was a musical rendition that came to Detroit a while back that I wanted to go, but I didn't. Did anyone happen to see it? I also heard there's talk of a new movie coming out, even starring Michael Keaton. That would be sweet, but I have no info on that for you. Number 5 on this year's NES Halloween list is a heavy hitter. And this is a game nobody ever talks about. And I'm guessing that's because it is hard as hell and half broken. And that game is Frankenstein. So the full title is Frankenstein, the Monster Returns. And yes, as I said, it is hard as hell and half broken. once you get the hang of it and give it a chance, once again, it's not that bad. This game is probably the most R-rated game on this list. The story is actually pretty scary if you pay attention, aside from it being all wrong, since Frankenstein is actually the scientist, not the monster, but ignoring that giant fuck up, it's for sure horror. It starts off by Frankenstein destroying a town and kidnapping the girl. Have we heard that before? The whole story throughout the game is very creepy scary. Not just the storyline, but the monsters in the cutscenes have no pupils, and I think it makes them look creepy as fuck. And creepy scary is the focus for this game, making it onto the list because, like I said, the gameplay, even once you get used to it, is pretty shitty, which makes it NES tough. But man, for some reason, once I got the hang of it, something just hooked me and I've been playing the shit out of this game. I ended up getting pretty far, but as of the filming of this episode, I have not beat it yet. Now, this is a game that didn't make the list. So this one should have 7. We only have 6. This isn't an honorable mention. This is the game that I intended it to be part of this, but it just couldn't be. And that's because it's so fucking terrible. Werewolf. What goes better with Frankenstein than Werewolf, right? Well, no matter how well this game paired on the list, I cannot recommend it. I wanted to, just first of all, the cutscene in the beginning. I love cutscene, a good cutscene. And this one is exactly that. When you transform from the human into the werewolf is straight scary. And I love the way it looks. It's very well done, and it's awesome. When you're playing as the werewolf, the character icon is actually pretty scary looking. He's got some serious long claws. It's not your general werewolf that you have or see in games. It's a nice twist. They made it different. I like that. But this game's controls are so fucking broken. Not only is attack and jump flip-flopped, which is just fucking unforgivable, but, back in the day gamer doesn't look things up. I have heard many people complain about this game on the rare occasion when you hear it, about how it's so hard to grab things and crawl along them like you're supposed to do, like you're supposed to hang from the pipe on the ceiling and inch along. The controls are just so broken I can't figure it out. I tried nearly every combination of button mashing that I could. Obviously I didn't try them all because I hadn't figured it out, and it is possible to do, but it was beyond infuriating, and as hard as I tried for 20 minutes, I could only get 30 seconds into the game. So fuck Werewolf, fuck this game. It's not making the list. I'm sure if I looked up how to use the controls properly, which I will not do, that could change things, but as of now, it is not. So, moving on to game number 4 for today's list. This is a shocker that it's joining my list, because normally when I do lists, we say games like this aren't on there. But these are the Halloween games that I'm playing this year for Halloween, so since I'm playing it, it made the list. And that is yet another controversial game. Who knows what I'm going to say? You guessed wrong. Castlevania 2, Simon's Quest. As I said, normally I do not include painfully obvious picks that are on all the other lists, but this year Simon's Quest made the cut. It's definitely my least favorite in the trilogy, obviously, as it is everyone's, but it is my top choice for the Castlevania games for this Halloween season because it is by far the creepiest. I'm not going to spend too much time here because everyone is overly familiar with the Castlevanias and Simon's Quest. But we're going to talk about it a little bit because it's here on the list, so the controls are a bit stiff. The knockback is brutal, and you can't change directions in the air, which sucks. And on top of all that, it's super cryptic. If you're like me and you don't look things up, this game is all but impossible to figure out. But if you watch as much YouTube as I do, at some point you've heard mention of how to get past the roadblocks that would have stopped anyone back in the day. So I'm sure if I set my mind to it, I'd muscle through it because I'd either end up remembering what I had heard people say randomly, or I would just figure it out because I, kind of have the gist of playing old cryptic video games after all these years. This year, I've been playing this one just because I remember it being very dark and creepy. The switch from day to night always makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand out. One, because it's kind of creepy, and two, because now you know it's going to be extra fucking hard. I've got good memories of this game back in the day. My dad's buddy, who actually was one of the first places that I'd ever played Nintendo, they had Simon's Quest, and they probably got it right when it came out. Now, Simon's Quest was the first Castlevania game I'd ever played, and back in the day, I liked it. I didn't know it was cryptic because I never ended up getting far enough for any of that cryptic shit to matter. But, like I said, it's making the list this year because it is creepy scary. Love that pumpkin beer. Sometimes. 2/3 of the time it sucks. When you find the right ones, it's good. That one's good. Next game on the list, number 3. It's a game that actually made last year's list as well. But this year, I put even more time playing it. I've got even farther. And I like it even more. And that game is Dracula. So Bram Stoker's Dracula on the Nintendo Entertainment System is extremely theme appropriate. And since I haven't beaten it, it's on the list once again. It's Dracula, it's dark, it's ominous, it has scary parts, the bosses are creepy and evil. There's also a day to night transition, which is a good thing for Halloween games. It has all these things going for it, which makes it a perfect Halloween game. It also has cheap deaths from bullshit place spawning enemies, and a high degree of difficulty and limited continues. So it's got good things and bad things, but so far it's been too tough for me to take down yet again. But it still earns a spot on the list again this year because it's extremely theme appropriate, and maybe this is the Halloween season I take it down. I think I said that last year. But I mean it this year. Again. Down to number 2. Now, the risk of sounding like a broken record, this is a game that made last year's list as well. Yet, I beat this game just after Halloween last year. So, why is it on this list? Because it is just perfect for a Halloween list, and it's that good to add it again. And that is just asininely titled A Nightmare on Elm Street. 2 LJN titles on this list. Get the fuck out of here. The Freddy title screen is awesome. The fact that this game is 4-player is awesome. Except, I've never heard anyone say they've played it 4-player. So maybe that isn't awesome. But I think the option itself is fantastic. This is a top tier NES game and a top tier Halloween themed Nintendo title. We aren't going to say very much else about it because I covered it rather extensively last year. And if you haven't seen last year's video, I'll put a link in the description below. You should see it. I really enjoyed making that video, and apparently you guys like watching it because it got quite a few views. But A Nightmare on Elm Street is really a fantastic game. It's overlooked. Everybody talks about it at Halloween time, but I play it often. Not all the time, but I do play it often. It's fantastic. And since I have beaten it, a lot of times once I do beat a game, I kind of don't go back to it anymore. Not this one. I like it that much. I still play it, and it's on the list 2 years in a row. It's not going to make the cut next year, though. Probably. I don't know. There are many games that could have made this list that I intended to, but I just didn't have time to play anymore, and I should keep it smaller and focus and actually beat the games. But I'm looking at the stack that I intended to right over there, and it could be another video, but it's not going to be because we're too close to Halloween. So next year, we're all set for that. This year's number 1 Nintendo NES title is another heavy hitter. And a game that, once again, I don't hear anyone talking about. It's not an LJN title. But I've had this game for a little while. And at first I hated it. And gave it almost no play. It being the Halloween season. I said it's time to throw it in and give it a shot. And it became this year's favorite game. Hence it being number one. Without further ado, The Addams Family. Pugsley's Scavenger Hunt. Being a huge Addams Family fan, but not liking the NES game very much, this rare title was always on my radar. I picked it up like a year ago at MGC, but only tossed it in a few times, like I said, because at first I hated it. I'm not sure what it was about it that I hated it, because now I really, really like it. And, as I said once before, and many times in the past, once I gave it more of a shot, I was pleasantly surprised that I went from hating it to liking it. Pugsley's Scavenger Hunt is definitely the superior version of the Addams Family game. It has a lot of similarities from that first game, but to be honest, I've put more time into this one than that one, so we're just gonna glaze past that. The controls handle very well, which is definitely a necessity for this game because it's one of those games that moves a little too fast. The graphics themselves aren't bad at all. The atmosphere fits both the source material and for the season. This game has a lot of variety, from strange themes to enemies. In just the first 5 minutes of this gameplay here, you've got 2 boss battles. I'm not sure what the reasoning is, but you collect candy, which makes it even more Halloween-y. I like that, once again, it has a password. I haven't actually used it, so hopefully it's not one of those NES tough 40 character long ones that before smartphone picks you never would have been able to get right. Expectations were low going into it, both because the first game is so fucking bad and the fact that you never hear mention of it. Even though I have not yet got to the end of it, I'm very pleased and happy to place it number 1. I was yammering too long and the fucking recording stopped. So I'm not exactly sure where we were, but I know I was in the midst of saying I have not yet beat it this year, but so far I am pleasantly surprised and happy to put it as the number 1 game on this year's NES Halloween Games. That's going to wrap it up. I don't have honorable mentions. This is a unique list for me in both that we've got a Castlevania game, because I never put like Castlevania or Mega Man games into the lists generally, and we got some repeats from last year, and there's 2 heavy hitters. One of them's terrible, one of them's my top pick. So I'm pleased with this year's selection of games, and there's still a week before Halloween, so I'll be playing some more. And when I do my What's Happening Halloween video, I'll let you know which ones I beat. I feel like it's probably only going to be 1, because Halloween's creeping up. So thanks for watching, YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. And until next time, keep it retro.
What?
Thumbnail.
Yeah!